who own cars potentially will find convenience for a short period of time if I widen the road.
Yes.
Right? 80% of the space in the road is used by those who own cars. There may be only 10% of people. What about the 90% people?
Yes.
Never in the history
We
have emitted less than the previous year.
Never. Yeah.
Okay, maybe pockets in regions have done that, or events like COVID have done that. But so let's assume that we'll still manage to at least keep it at the same level. And how many years do we have to kind of stop? Then there is nothing I can emit after that.
It's hardly 20 years,
22
right?
years.
22 years, yeah.
So for living below 2 degrees centigrade, we are talking about only climate as one of the issues, right? We are not even talked about the other issues. So just for climate, we are talking about 22 years that are ahead. Big businesses have appreciated that there is a business case and there is a alignment between customer nature and the business.
That is an amazing solution.
So while, as I said, this is not something which solves the problem, but it takes you much closer to solutions, right?
I think let's try and simplify this argument, okay? Because I think I'm understanding this. But if we really have to explain this to a 7th standard, 8th standard child, okay? He is understanding that we are consuming more than we have and that we are borrowing from the future. He is understanding that the incentives for wrong behavior are higher than incentives for right behavior.
Correct.
There are some things, so for example, we are a creature of habit and we have a dopamine system that has been completely hijacked. People know exactly, in food they call it the bliss point. A packet of kurkure, unfortunately, today tastes much yummier to your brain. To your 160-year-old brain that stopped growing after a point. A kurkure is much tastier than a guava, today's guava, unfortunately. Because I have some guava sitting at home and they have zero taste. They don't taste like guavas at all. Guavas taste like pears, taste like apples. They all taste the same. I don't know what the hell is going on. So the incentives are against me. I'm understanding the problem. So I want to act rationally. But the whole system, the whole incentive structure is designed in such a way that I am forced into a behavior. It's very convenient for me to say this, but unfortunately I'm seeing this happen all over the place. Is that the behavior is forced, it's like a rat in a maze following a treat, is forced to make me behave in a wrong way. So what can be done to sort of disillusion, escape from this illusion and make the right decisions?
So, there are two important things. One is, of course, how you can change your behavior, which is harder, which is called a consumer push. So as consumers start asking for different things, economic system will respond.
Yes.
That's one part of it. Having said that, that's very hard. Right? I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's hard because everybody has to be aware, everybody has to start asking different things, etc. The second is systemic change, where now my system is restructured. System is restructured in such a way that it is good for the business and good for the individual, good for the government. Now this looks like utopian.
Yes.
Right? But there are different ways in which you start thinking. And now if you start thinking in a queer way, a very different way, you will realize that this is possible. This is not impossible.
I see.
And again, one part is you continue to remain part of the current economic system, that is the growth economics, for some time because you are in there.
Yeah.
You have to remain in that and still make a change.
Yes.
Which becomes harder.
Yes.
And there have been, very interesting books written on this whole idea of how can you do something within the system which you do not want. and change the system for the better, if you will. Better or worse is not really the correct word, but maybe the right direction.
Do you remember the name of the book?
The name of the author is Matthew Wyszynski,
Okay.
and the name of the book is Design After Capitalism.
Design After Capitalism.
So it's a very interesting book.
Very interesting book.
It's a very interesting book. So, I mean, on one side, you will see that capitalism has done excellent things for many people, in the sense of providing more comforts, providing, stuff which we never had,
Security, survival, whatever. Yeah.
It has done some good things.
Yes.
We certainly cannot deny that.
Yes.
We are the
Byproducts of it, yeah.
byproducts of the same system.
Yeah.
But we now realize that there are limitations to what it can do in especially the world we live in today, and where we would like our children to live in tomorrow. We see that there are limitations. It's kind of this system is getting broken, and we need to fix the system as well. So if system can be fixed, I mean, it is always this push and pull, saying some of the people would say that no, therefore people have to change. If I change, then I can make the economic system change, which is the hard part. Of course, we will continue to do that, creating awareness through root cause and stuff like that. But it is also important to figure out, at least those who can think differently, how the system can change.
This is so important, but we are in a democracy.
Absolutely. So even within this paradigm, saying that I always give this example that I had been part of the corporate world for far too long, unfortunately. But if I were to, stand up in front of the board and say that from next year my company is going to degrow 10% every year, I'll be thrown out on day one, right? I will not be there to degrow the company or grow the company.
This is the problem. So
yeah,
yes,
that's a problem.
Yes.
Now, and therefore your question, which is very relevant now, saying that can we decouple? So I now say that I want to decouple the monetary economics and resource economics.
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah. So we say that monetary economics, let us continue with everybody's happy, getting 10% salary hike, etc., whatever that is, year after year. So money wise, I continue to feel at least that I'm growing. But at the same time, I cannot afford to grow on the resource economics side.
Yes.
And maybe in the short term, it might still grow. Certain parts of the world might still grow, like India or like other developing world where part of the community still do not have enough. But by and large, if you look at it, there is a definite possibility to see how can I improve my resource efficiency.
Yeah.
Now, it has been talked about as one of the very important wedge, but according to me, it is the most important wedge that we need to talk about. Right? Resource intensity of every dollar or every rupee that we generate out of business, how can I reduce resource intensity, improve resource efficiency?
Maximize efficiency, yeah.
Now, to that, I give you another counter argument already, that in the past, if you really look at how resources have been used and how new things have been produced, you will see that I improve efficiency of a device, and suddenly, instead of one device, I start using 10 devices. I improve my efficiency by one device, 10%, and I start using 10 devices, whereby aggregate energy requirement, aggregate material requirement increases instead of decreases.
This is Moore's law.
So this is actually Jevons paradox.
Jevons paradox.
Moore's law is about
exponential
increase in power of computing.
Correct.
Right? That was Moore's law.
But then people use more computing, and it's connected.
Exactly. It's connected, yes.
Yeah.
Moore's law and this is connected, but this is called Jevons paradox.
Correct.
Where he said that, what we have observed over a period of time, that as you increase the efficiency, you are actually increasing the aggregate energy use. While you have lower energy requirement per widget. So let's say this particular mug, I really need to use only one mug.
Yeah.
But because this is cheaper tomorrow, I will buy 10.
Yes.
And, just keep in the cupboard another 9 for no particular reason.
Yes.
Right? So that's the problem of economics. That's not the problem of engineering.
Yes.
and that's always, engineers say that, that's not my problem,
Yes.
right? But it's a problem of the economic system.
Yes.
But engineers also want their salary increase next year.
Correct.
So they are part of the economic system.
Someone has to sell
So they
more.
have to find
Yeah.
a way to, what therefore can be done.
Yeah.
So one way, and when I talk about resource efficiency, we have several levers in which you can improve resource efficiency. It is not just about one way of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So you can do it by doing engineering innovation. By
Yeah.
saying that now it consumes, instead of 10 units of energy and requiring 10 kg of iron, now it requires only 1 kg of iron and 1 unit of electricity. That's most of it comes from science and engineering.
Yeah.
So definitely there is a big opportunity for innovation in science and engineering.
Yeah.
But there is also opportunity to innovate for behavioral scientists.
Yes.
So behavioral scientists should actually start looking at how people behave. What do they really need?
Yes.
Can I figure out a way whereby I can decouple these resources and what the need is?
Yes.
So there is a possibility for that, right? The third possibility is, can we think about consuming things differently altogether? So today, when I say that, I will say that I want to go and buy a car. I don't know what I'm going to use the car for. I'm not even thinking about it. This is largely the behavioral scientist domain, really speaking.
It has to be a bigger car than my brother or brother-in-law.
So I'm actually doing that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm not even bothering about whether I'm going to use the car in the first place.
Absolutely.
We have to also look at simple things, that just adding one car in the fleet of cars, what does it do to the natural environment? Apart from the fact that you mine material, etc. So one is, you're going to need more material, right? You're going to need more energy to make that next car. You're going to need more space. So you need some space in the factory, where these manufactured cars are parked. You're going to need more space on the road where the car is going to move. You're going to need more space for parking where the car is going to be parked. So you actually land up, if the footprint of the car is, let's say, 3 meters by 4 meters, I'm just putting some numbers, 12 meters of footprint, you're going to need 50 meters, 48 square meters.
Yeah.
48 square meters of land that is required for one car. Now, in 480 square meters, you can grow a lot more food, for example.
Correct.
So you are making sure that I'm diverting my land to something else.
Who is making this decision is my simple
So
question.
nobody even talks about this, right? Nobody
Yeah.
says that making one car essentially means I'm diverting 500 square foot of land. No,
Right.
nobody talks about it,
Right.
right?
Right.
So
So that's understood. Chalo, I understood it. See, why I'm saying this, Ajay, is because I think it is unrealistic to say that a common man will do these calculations before buying a
Absolutely.
car. I'm seeing it's very improbable
You're right.
in my
You're right.
neighborhood's
You're right.
environment right
So
now.
let me ask you a question.
Right.
Right? Suppose in Pune, you want to go from Baner to Gokhale Institute, Ferguson College Road. Now, what vehicle will you use today?
Today I will use a two-wheeler. If it's raining, I will.
Even if you had a car, you will use a two-wheeler.
Yes.
Why will you use a two-wheeler?
Because I'm conscious of it. If I could
No,
cycle.
even if you are not conscious, will you still use a two-wheeler? Is the question I would ask.
Definitely not. Car.
So, actually, that's not necessarily true. You should go and ask people. They'll use a two-wheeler still.
Because of traffic.
So they will start realizing at
Yeah.
least one part, saying
Yeah.
that if I use a car, I'm not going to reach in good time. Okay. So I always ask this question when I go for these, sessions for induction of engineers, where first question is, how many people want to own a BMW 7? Everybody says I want to.
Yes.
Right? Then the next question is, how many people would like to sit in a BMW 7 for 2 hours in traffic jam? And instead, you are going to walk in 10 minutes from one place to another. People then start thinking, right? And that's where we are essentially saying, what is the car being used for?
End use, yeah.
Yeah. So we are now getting to a concept where we say that car is being used for movement from one place to another. Maybe comfortable movement from one place to another, right? That's the objective, rational objective of the car. And if you were rational, then you will understand that the rational objective of this vehicle is moving me from place A to place B. Then can I think that are there different ways of doing it?
Yes.
Yes, right. So today, then I'm not going to a corner grocer, I'm not going to take a car, I'll take a scooter. Then you'll start asking whether I really need a scooter. Can I use a bicycle? Can I just walk? Right? If I have to go far distance, so for example, people from now in Pune, after the metro system to an extent is in place, if they want to really go from Vanas, that is in Kothur, to Viman Nagar, nobody will take a car.
Correct.
Why will they not take a car? It's a systemic change.
Correct. Correct.
So now you have some supporting systems and you have already made a mess of roads using current economic system, right? So now you have an alternate system of moving from point A to point B. So I'm going to use a metro.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I'm trying to say is if you are able to get to a level where I can actually see better alternatives in the current system.
You will take the better alternative.
In the current system. I'm not even saying that I'm changing. I'm not talking about changing economics. I'm just saying that make fabulous public transport.
George Monbiot is worthwhile quoting him, right?
Absolutely. You quote Monbiot. Monbiot essentially says that make public infrastructure so good that you don't need to replicate.
Public luxury, private sufficiency.
That's what he says. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you don't need to duplicate, which means that your stress on the resources is going to go low. I'm still conveniently going from one place to another. I mean, when you talk about transportation or any other public service.
Yes.
Right? So this is where you're talking about systemic change.
So the status game is very different.
Absolutely.
I know people who are stuck in the status game.
Yeah. And there will be also.
There will be. So poor fellow doesn't have a choice. He has to sit in an Audi and go somewhere because if people see him in some kind of a public transport, they are going to question him.
In fact, when I used to be in business, I used to run a company here, fairly large organization, and I used to cycle. And people said, why do you cycle? Why? What's the point? People see that our organization is not as good. I said, why should they feel that? Connect me to anybody who says that, and I'll make sure that they'll feel differently. Right? So, but there is that perception that somebody who is driving a good car, is better off than somebody is, riding a bicycle. That perception has to change, and that perception can change only through the intervention through psychologists and behavioral scientists. But systemic intervention can be done otherwise. It can be done by engineers and policymakers.
Yeah.
And both are important.
I was just going to get to that point. So you as the leader, so leadership is very important here. If we can shift or create a real shift in leadership, I would actually like to illustrate a very beautiful point because I was in Singapore for a couple of years. So under the leadership of Lee Kuan Yew, the way he designed the system, this beast called economics, who we are blaming all the time, he used economics to drive the right behavioral change in his people. Owning a private car is so expensive in Singapore, and the public transport is so convenient and so comfortable that common sense points you towards taking a public transport.
Absolutely.
Right? Absolutely. And then naturally, societally, it gets normalized that even no matter if you're a student in a college or you're some big high-flying CEO, it's perfectly normal to travel in a metro.
Absolutely. In fact, this is a very interesting part, and that's why we should talk about this whole idea of public investments. So today's public investments, very large part is going into constructing roads and highways and flyovers.
Infrastructure,
right?
Yes.
There is a social implication of this. And the social implication is that those who own cars potentially will find convenience for a short period of time. If I widen the road.
Yes.
Right? 80% of the space in the road is used by those who own cars. There are maybe only 10% of people. What about the 90% people?
Yes.
So again, you're creating inequity in the way you're investing.
Yes.
So you need to make sure that even if you assume that forget environment, right? Forget resources. I want to be socially
Equitable in the human
yes.
anthropogenic
No,
perspective.
this also is a solution where you say that you create good public infrastructure for the masses
Yes.
and not for the classes. Then you will automatically align also with our idea that you will use less natural resources per capita.
Why is this decision making not happening like this?
So, I mean, it is happening, but it is happening too slowly. I would not say that this is not happening. It is happening. We are talking about only one example, but there are more examples that I think will bring in more clarity to this discussion. So, this whole idea of end use efficiency has to be understood. Again, example of a car. What is the real efficiency of a car in moving a person? Tell me.
It's pretty bad.
So,
It's
give me a random number.
It's a hunk of metal, right? Like if I say a car is about 800 kgs, I don't know what. Typical 1500.
Typical
Dead
car is
ton.
1500,
Dead tons.
SUV is 2500 and a Hummer is 3500.
Crazy. So let's take an average of 1.5 ton, right?
1500 kg, yeah.
1500 kgs is carrying a 65 to 85 kg human.
Person.
So a total of 1600 kgs is moving from point A to point B on a fossil fuel that took 5 million years to generate. What is the efficiency of it?
This
It's nothing.
one step efficiency itself is no more than 5%. Multiply that by the fact that converting chemical energy to kinetic energy is only 25% efficient.
Oh.
Right? And now you're talking about 1%. So real end-use efficiency of a car is 1%. Electric car actually weighs more than ICE car. If you look at the weight part of it. Maybe it is a little bit more efficient because there are some
The
classes which
sources,
are.
yeah.
So actually, if you really look at the benefits that you get out of electric car, if you go through the whole what we call as LCA in technical terms, you get benefits to the tune of 20%.
LCA is life cycle analysis. Yeah.
So if you look at the real comparison, whether is electric car better than this? Yes, it is better. How much better? 20% better. So we are not really solving the problem, but is it a better step to take?
Yeah.
If so, if your car has already reached the end of life, yeah, it is. But is it a good idea to just replace it because you feel it's green? It may not be, because you have already consumed a lot of energy making the first car.
Yeah, this is a beautiful segue into, I think, the whole energy transition era that we find ourselves in. Before we get into it, when we say transition, we have to assign a time period to it, right?
Correct.
Like how long this transition should take. Ideally, we should aim for some time period, and we can miss it by a bit, but it should not be a big stretch. There is a popular question that comes from the audience, and the question is very simple. In your estimation, how much time do we have left before we run out of
Something.
Let's say it's all about oil and watts, right? Like
Yeah,
basically,
it's not just about that. We are only talking about sources. We also need to talk about sinks. We are talking about this whole business of climate change is because we are running out of sink.
oh yeah. So
Right.
there's a root stock
Yeah.
and there's a surplus, and
Correct.
we are running out of root stock, right? So
We are running out of sink. I mean, there
Yeah.
is no space to digest or handle extra CO2.
yeah.
We are dumping
Interesting.
it, but
Yeah.
there is no way to handle it, and therefore there is a feedback.
So there are basically two ends of the source and the sink.
And both are nature services.
Both are ecosystemic services,
Both are ecosystem
which we have
services.
enjoyed for free all this
All the
while.
time. So if you look at the time period, I'll give you some numbers. Right. So these are based on a lot of research people have done. These are public numbers. So what they're essentially saying that the amount of carbon that we can emit for the temperature to remain stable. What is the carbon budget that we have? Right. The carbon budget we have. Additional carbon dioxide that we can push into air is 200 gigatons.
Okay.
Right? So 200 gigatons is something that we have as a budget. If we have to limit the warming to 1.5 degrees. How much are we emitting per year today? Any idea?
68.
So we're emitting something like 38 gigatons.
38, okay. I thought
Give
it's
or take
68
40.
gigatons. Okay.
40 gigatons. So now just do math. How many years do we have? 5. So within 5 years, if we say that we stop emitting carbon dioxide, then we are okay for 1.5. Okay, so we know that we are not okay.
This is,
Okay, fair enough.
this is not going to happen.
So now we are talking about, let's say that for 2 degrees, what is the budget that I have? So that budget is roughly 880 gigatons. 880 gigatons. So if we continue to emit at 40 gigatons, and for that matter, if we continue to do that, I would be delighted, because never in the history we have emitted less than the previous year.
Never, yeah.
Okay, maybe pockets in regions have done that, or events like COVID have done that. But so let's assume that we'll still manage to at least keep it at the same level. And how many years do we have to kind of stop? Then there is nothing I can emit after that.
It's hardly 20 years,
22
right?
years.
22 years, yeah.
So for living below 2 degrees centigrade, we are talking about only climate as one of the issues, right? We have not even talked about the other issues. So just for climate, we are talking about 22 years that are available to us. So we have to do something in 22 years, for sure. Because climate-related issues we already are seeing. We are seeing excess rain, right?
Just
in very
recent-
short time. We are seeing it today here in Pune.
Yeah.
All over the countries, all over the world, we are seeing more natural disasters. So many things are happening. And which will definitely increase. I mean, nobody can deny, just
Yes.
based on data.
Yes.
Even everybody who says, no, data is important, logic, tumhare paas hi rakho. Right? So, even there, you will see that, it is.
Now it's
there
in
is
your
enough
face.
data.
The data is in your face
Correct.
now. Yeah.
So looking at this, we need to definitely do something in couple of decades. And we talked about, at least, we started talking about some of the levers that we have, and we will talk more about.
Yes.
So that's where I think we stand in terms of numbers. The other two factors are even more disastrous, and which we should not mention. And one is biodiversity loss. We are losing biodiversity at a rate which is unprecedented.
Yeah.
The background extinction rate we are talking about is 6 species we lose every year. That's a background extinction rate. And today we are in excess of 1,000 species a year. So that's like orders of magnitude more. And why do species get lost is primarily because of habitat destruction.
Yeah, land use change.
Land use change. And land use change happens because of we using more energy.
Correct.
At one point in time, when we had only an axe, we could cut 1 tree a day. When we had a diesel chainsaw, we started, cutting 2,000 trees in a day.
Today you have these
Right?
motorized
I have,
monsters that
they
go
can
into a
do
rainforest and
They'll finish it.
they cut it, strip it, and acres of forest disappear in a day.
They kind of create land out of forests.
Yeah.
Now, these land use change is going to affect in 2 ways. It's a double whammy. There is a carbon sink, potential carbon sink, which is sequestering carbon
Exactly.
there, and which is gone, right? And then we are adding
A city
additional
on it.
energy usage, which is emitting more carbon.
Yeah.
So it's a double whammy.
So time at worst is 5 years, at best is 22 years.
If we say that 2 degrees centigrade is sacrosanct,
It is, because there's something
Yeah.
called the hot bulb effect, right? Like a human cannot survive comfortably beyond 50 degrees centigrade. Right?
you're right. So I think the point is that we really need action,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, this action has to be global.
Yes.
And you see a lot of geopolitical issues also coming up. But therefore, I think it is important to look at systemic changes, because they can proliferate very quickly, if that can happen. Like you talked about Singapore. It's a good example of making sure that public infrastructure can actually help save a lot of resources and still did not cause inconvenience to a lot of people. Okay, now another thing that we really need to appreciate and understand is there is a belief in techno-economic community that if we do transition from fossil fuels and move to
Clean
renewables, clean, so-called clean energy,
So-called.
whether it is hydro, whether it is solar, whether it is the way we are using, we define it. I define solar energy as it is. Okay, if we move there, nothing, no problem. We have solved the problem. But the way it is defined today is essentially converting that solar energy, the way we obtain, into something more convenient like electricity and then using it, right? So, number one is these transitions take time. We already talked about history. Transitions take decades, if not centuries. And we are expecting and hoping that this transition is happen immediately. Do we have any numbers to support this argument? We do have numbers. So today, I have a 2023 data roughly. In 2023, world produced give or take 3% through solar energy. I am using solar energy as a proxy
Indicator
to all
for
of
clean
renewable
energy. Yeah.
Okay,
Sure,
I've just
sure,
used that.
Sure.
So it produce something like 3% world over. Okay, some countries did produce far more, some countries produce less, but this is the problem of the world. It's not the problem of
Right.
a country.
Right.
So they produce approximately 3%. Even if we look at all the estimates that we are looking at, no, not 3% is for India. In fact, the world produced less than 1%. I'm sorry for that. So 3%, if you look at for India, which produced in 2023, we are saying that we reach our target of 500 gigawatts in 2030, which is likely.
Okay.
Yeah, we are doing good on that front. How much of our energy needs in 2030 will be
Fulfilled by
provided
solar.
by
Clean.
solar energy? Guess. Assume we hit the targets.
10%.
6%. Okay, even with this, we will only have 6% of our energy mix which is solar.
My God.
Okay. So we are trying very hard, and which is good. I'm not saying that it is bad. Apart from the fact that we also have to work on the problems of recycling.
Yeah.
Because what are you going to do with all these solar panels end of life?
Yeah.
Okay. So 25 years is already still we are thinking quite long term, if you
Yeah.
will.
Yeah.
But what is going to happen if you are going to use batteries? What is going to happen? How are we going to recycle? Whether it is going to scale? In the process of scale, are we going to use more energy? Now, these issues are not discussed normally,
Yeah.
which must be discussed,
Yes.
right? And I'm pretty positive about it that we'll find some solutions. I'm not saying that we will not find solutions. The issue is not just solutions; it's also the rate at which and scale at which I can actually make these solutions happen and work.
Exactly.
Right? So I do not have enough time. And therefore, there are two approaches that we must take. One is try to decouple our energy use from economic growth as much as possible. I'm not saying that it is possible 100%. Nobody says it is. And at the same time, figure out how I can reduce aggregate energy use.
You're talking about contraction of consumption.
I have to consumption the way I consume. I will not say contraction of consumption. So that doesn't mean that I don't want to go from point A to point B, but if I can go in 1% of energy,
Yeah.
I would prefer to do that, right?
I follow. Like need over want. Kind of.
Not even that. Not even that. So as I said that in today's context, you want to go from Vanas to Ramwadi. I want to use a metro. Whatever current system provides you. So I would not even say, need over want. I'm essentially saying that you have options, and if we can make those options attractive for every person's use, then there is a potential. Now, of course, there are debates upon whether you use a bus or you use a metro, or whether this metro requires too much of money, etc., etc., which is okay. I mean, I'm not denying, and we will have choices to make. But the choices, do you have better choices, far better choices to make than what we have today? They are. And would we want to make these choices?
Yes.
We will. So that's a positive part of it. So do people want to shift from electricity the way they generate today, from, let's say, buy it from thermal electricity to going into a net zero home,
Yeah.
they will want to.
Yeah.
Was it convenient 5 years ago? It was not. Is it convenient today? It is. So policy has also shifted. I would not, say that policy has not shifted. It has shifted. It is becoming much easier to now say that, yeah, I will be able to use. But we are not going beyond that. We also should think about it, what's likely to happen 25 years when there is the end of life. Do we have a mechanism to scavenge that material and make another panel? Of course, it will need a little bit more energy. But I'm at least keeping the materials in the
loop. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And am I designing for end use or am I designing for prestige?
Status and prestige. That game has to be dismantled.
And if it is done in design, it automatically, the shift becomes automatic. We don't have to force people. And there will still be people who would still want to buy the, biggest car and, etc., which is fine. Which are going to be, hopefully, very few people, like in Singapore, right? People just cannot afford. So they have good cars, but they have only, 100,000 cars.
There was this very interesting, I don't remember it clearly right now, but there was a quote from your article where you said that an average man today consumes so much resources that would make some king or some emperor of some village, hide in shame.
So look at the number, right? Look at the number. From hunter-gatherer days to today, per capita energy requirement has grown by 60 times. Per capita, I'm saying. And how many capita have we increased number of people?
9 billion.
From 1 million or so to close to 8.5 or 8.3 billion. Billion. So aggregate energy use has grown exponentially. And we have to focus on trying to bring that aggregate energy use down. Not just saying that I want to make this next widget more efficient.
This is a wicked problem for sure.
And these are the two things which we have to work simultaneously. On one side, we have to make sure that people appreciate some of these issues and appreciate options which probably are better for them. And they are much less resource consuming, much less energy consuming, etc. And the second issue is how do we, at a broad level, in terms of as we chart our development strategy, how do we therefore say that I want to chart it in a manner that after, let's say, 50 years or 30 years or 40 years or 20 years, my energy use will be less than what I'm using today. And in spite of reduced energy use, I will have more convenience for my people. Because that's a political imperative.
Yeah.
Right? So more convenience for more people is a political imperative. Now, keeping that imperative intact, can we do things differently? Is a question that we are pondering on. And now there is a next stage. And the next stage gets even more interesting. It is, so if you really look at the way we measure business success today, is saying that, are you growing? You're talking about two parameters, revenues and margins, and market capitalization, which is anyway an abstract idea. Somebody says that 200x, somebody has 27x, but that's an abstract idea. So let's keep it aside. At least these two parameters are real parameters for business that we continue to measure. Right? Now we want to add certain parameters. And slowly investors have also started thinking about it. He's saying that how do you factor in the risks? Okay, so there is a climate risk.
Which was like force majeure. It was like a odd clause in the corner of an agreement once upon a time.
Now it is coming
COVID has made it come in the fore right now.
So climate risk is one category of risk. Other category of risk is resource risk, which is also coming into picture. For example, rare earth metals. Because of geopolitical situation, now people actually know that this material is not going to be there. Maybe many countries will never have this.
Yes.
Right? So there is a risk associated with resources, the risk associated with climate. There will be, as folks from the high finance understand that there is also risk associated with the biological resources, which is pharmaceutical industry is already realizing slowly but surely that there is the risk associated with that. And all that actually essentially talks about issues which are tied to land use change, and that land use change is tied to energy use, right? Now, once we understand this, we say there is an imperative for us to change.
So how do we do it is the next question.
So at least we are at a point where even people are putting in money in the next business say that I have to factor in risks.
This is very encouraging. This
Right,
is the
because-
first real solution I am seeing.
And it's a bigger issue, right? So it's not an issue where we say, I change my behavior, which is always important, no question. Because I always say that, many people say that what is going to happen if you cycle instead of you going in a car?
Yes.
I said, I feel that that's the right thing to do, therefore I'm doing
Exactly.
it. It has nothing to do with...
I don't have to prove anything to anyone.
And
yeah.
that, I'm not changing the world, which is absolutely true. But then those are people, and therefore it can multiply, is an issue. When people see somebody doing something and they talk to that person and say that, oh, why are you doing this? Okay, these are the reasons. Oh, looks sensible. Maybe, I'll also want to do it. Right? That's the bottom up part. But more important, or equally important, I would say, is the
Systemic
top-down part,
yeah.
the systemic part. And there are now these, at least green shoots that you see, which were not there even if you talk, 5, 7, 10 years ago.
So most of technologists will tell us that their North Star is the sun. Okay. And the amount of energy that the sun has is so tremendous that even a small fraction of it is enough to power the thing.
Absolutely.
Now I realize it's the principle of entropy that tells you this is not practical to think like this. Because the amount of usable energy that comes from all this huge, enormous source, when you try to convert it into something else, that's when something goes wrong and we haven't even come close to sort of balancing it off.
So, see, actually the point is that if we were creatures who use sun's energy as is,
That's the word.
okay, as is, I think we have solved the problem.
Yeah.
And actually that is also a direction in which we have to start thinking.
Exactly.
So now if I make that statement, it's complicated, so I'll not make it. But the point is that you use sun's energy as is rather than conversion. So I give you an example instead. Suppose you say I have a solar panel, I convert sun's energy into electricity, supply that electricity to the dryer, and I dry my shirt in that dryer. Ultimately, outcome is I have a dry shirt, right? But I've gone through a process where for making your electrical panels, I'm going to need external energy. For dryer, I'm going to need external energy. And I have a lot of sun's energy. But that sun's energy is not going to be enough to either make a solar panel or make a dryer.
Right.
You'll need an external high density energy
Right.
for that.
Right.
Instead, if I say that I put that shirt on my clothesline,
and it dries.
I'm done.
Yeah.
So I'm using sun's energy directly. And I'm achieving the same thing. My outcome is the same. Now, of course, it is related to issues such as how much time it takes. But if we can restructure our lives around this whole idea that, what is precious for you, if it's an outcome is precious to you, you can plan appropriately. And based on that planning, you can decide whether to use electricity, whether to use heat, whether to use just sun's energy, just wind. Even if you just do nice prioritization, your energy requirement is going to come down drastically.
Exactly.
Other example for this is also, even while you may not believe that it is directly related to entropy, but it is. Because everything is related to entropy. So another example is, we have this air conditioner here, right? And so the simple solutions say that, use air conditioner at a set point which is, closer to ambient, as close to ambient. In case of rooms, it says that you make sure that the sizing of the air conditioner is proper so that you're not using, let's say, 2-ton capacity for what is sufficient for a small room where
Right.
only 1-tonner might be sufficient.
Right.
So those are your technical solutions to trying to minimize energy required by the air conditioner.
Right.
But if you flip this, saying that my requirement is not air conditioner, okay, and say that I just want to be comfortable, now I have several possible solutions. Otherwise, we are looking at only one way of saying that I want to increase the efficiency of an air conditioner.
Right.
That's one solution. But now I have several other avenues that open up. What are the avenues that can open up because of that? So then, now it also goes down to potentially business, where you say that I won't sell air conditioners, even if I make air conditioners. I will sell comfort. If I am selling comfort, the customers will have to pay some 100 rupees a month for comfort. They don't even have to buy air conditioner. No need for 40,000 rupees to be spent, right? And they will be comfortable. Now that's my problem as a supplier. So I will make sure that the air conditioner is highly efficient. I will make sure that the air conditioner lives a very long life. I will make sure that it uses minimum material. It is repairable, whatever it is. So normally an air conditioner maker would have said that I would want to sell the next air conditioner as soon as possible.
Yes.
So all these parameters that I talked about, he doesn't care,
Interesting.
right? So now you are saying that if I just flip ownership, instead of consumer owning the device, the supplier owns the device. The whole game changes.
And does the cost economics work out for the supplier?
Yeah, so if I am designing a new business, it certainly does. Now, old businesses, the problem is they have to show if they have grown by some X amount last year, they have to show that they have to grow by X plus amount next year, and then there is difficulty. But there is still a transition pathway they can look at.
Oh, really?
Right. So, and fortunately, there are companies which are already doing it. So, this is a commercially accepted and commercially viable mechanism of delivering comfort.
Oh, this
So,
is
Carrier
amazing.
is doing it, for example.
So-
Carrier is one of the biggest air conditioner makers.
So lifetime value of the customer, I'm getting a little startup
Okay.
terms, but lifetime value of the customer remains either the same or even more. So rather than just selling you an air conditioner, I can continue to sell you a monthly subscription of comfort,
Correct?
climate comfort.
Correct.
And this is really amazing, I think.
And this is also being done by Philips for lighting. Okay, so Schiphol Airport. So they don't pay Philips for any fixture. No lights, no tubes, no nothing.
They say this is the ambience you have
This
to
is
maintain
what I
for
want.
me.
And Philips says, I will deliver you at X dollars, X euro per month. So it is not just about something small. You know, big businesses have appreciated that there is a business case and there is a alignment between customer nature and the business.
That is an amazing solution.
So while, as I said, this is again not not something which solves the problem, but it takes you much closer to solutions, right? Because it requires far less natural resources for what you want to deliver to the customer, right? And I continue doing my business all right. Okay, so this is I think these are a couple of good examples of utilizing things in the proper manner. I digressed a little bit from entropy, but I thought that this is an important thing for us to.
No, I'm
look
finding
at.
this very, very interesting. I'm also wondering what the intent of the manufacturer is. So a lot of times, a lot of people have the best technology and the best intention, and they're coming from that space. But a lot of times, the intent is an issue, and they still want to make a lot of money.
So actually, what happens is this has to be coupled with regulation.
Exactly.
Okay,
Now,
so now
it's
there
making
is,
sense.
as we are saying that, what are the different places where we'll have to solve the problem. So we are not saying that this problem alone can be solved just by doing this. There will be additional things required. So there will be a requirement of some regulation, where you say, certain things you can sell only in this particular manner. So there's a need for regulation as well. Right? Software world has already used this model for a very long time. Now, as you know that most of the software that you now have, you don't buy that.
Oh
You
yeah,
just
yeah,
rent
it's
it,
all
right?
subscription.
So you use
Yeah.
subscription service.
Yeah.
So this is a product as a service subscription.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now I also alluded to the fact that there could be other solutions. So what are the other solutions? So other solutions could be essentially saying that, okay, this is the type of building that you have. This is the type of comfort that you need. Let me go into the architect's shoes and say I will design a building and a
Correct.
ventilation and everything in such a way
Correct.
that you don't need an air conditioner. But
Correct.
I'm delivering comfort.
Correct.
And I'll still get my 100 rupees.
Correct.
So the point is that it opens up doors for multiple ways in which you can solve these problems. And every context will present you a different opportunity. So you can even put in a exhaust fan there, for example, 2 exhaust fans in a house, one which pulls the air in from a lower level
And
something
pushes,
which pushes the
warm
air
air
out.
out. Yeah.
And just that, many times, most of the time, solves all the problems.
Yes.
So there are many things which are possible, right? But these things people will not want to do till the time somebody says, I will install an air conditioner, give me 40,000 rupees, you are comfortable. You'll have to look at all these dimensions to move towards something of this nature.
Yeah, so I think we are looking at how to transition. This is sounding realistic to me. Okay, so I'm not telling anyone don't be comfortable. Step one, because the second you say that, you've lost them.
Correct.
Right? So we keep the comfort, but we change the system or the delivery of the comfort. So this is a great end-use lens to looking at the current reality. And step one is to shift to that way of doing things, the right way of doing things, or slightly less energy-intensive way of doing things. Substantially
energy intensive ways of
yeah.
doing it. You can actually reduce the use of energy by an order of magnitude if you did this right.
Yeah.
And not just energy, all the resources. So today, if you really look at it, you're talking about the air conditioner to quote unquote warranty, which is 2 years or 3 years. People use it. Businesses actually want to replace it every 3 years.
Exactly.
Right. So now businesses don't have to worry about it at all. Right. So essentially, businesses in the sense consuming businesses. And consumer essentially now starts saying that I don't care. I just want to be comfortable. That's all my requirement is. Similar to saying that I don't care about a car. I just want to go from one place to another. It's mobility. I'm not worried about whether I car, bus, bicycle or walk. I just want to be sure that it is comfortable, it saves me time or whatever, X, Y, Z. So if you shift your thinking, even in terms of how you consume, right? So your consumption is no more you're talking about consuming products. You're for all practical purposes consuming a service that the product delivers.
So where do you draw a line? So I'll give you an example. Okay, a lot of my friends have already transitioned to this. They don't aspire to own cars. A lot of them don't even aspire to own houses.
Houses, right.
They are very happy living on rent. It gives them the right amount of flexibility to be in different places at different times and stuff like that.
Correct.
Having said that, there is a deep species level pull to having a home, to having that sense of safety and security. Also, there is, I don't know if this is on a primal level, but a need to own things like this is mine has certain significance, and that is the core primitive emotion on which most sales have happened.
We are still talking about our generation or your for that matter even your generation. Move. My daughter is 24. My son is 32, but both of them have no aspiration of owning anything.
Yeah.
Whether they will own or not, I do not know. But they do not have any aspiration. They just want to make sure that whatever they want to do, they are able to do in a reasonable manner. And for that, they are willing to look at all these possibilities. So of course, they would want to learn driving, but would they want to own a car? I doubt. Because that's a skill for the emergency. That's how their feeling is.
Yeah, and that perspective is definitely coming.
I'm very strongly.
Very strongly.
That is a good sign, I would say.
It's a good sign.
That people are looking at it as a good sign.
It's a good
But
sign.
yeah, there are still lots of society where they will still feel, no, you have to own a home, you have to have a car, you have to have an air conditioner, a washing machine, own everything.
I was just coming to that. So there's a huge section of society. There's a huge migration happening, an economic migration happening, which then entails the geographic migration, the ideological migration. It's happening from villages to cities to nations to people are trying to so-called upgrade their life, right? So I guess our like your son and daughter feel this way because kind of on the Maslow's hierarchy they were kind of secure,
Likely.
right?
Yeah.
If they were struggling with a debilitating condition or aspiration to live, or if they were deeply satisfied,
Correct.
I think what you guys successfully did is give them a sense of security that you're okay, you're enough, you're good, and now aim for bigger things in life, right? But a lot of people don't have that luxury and will continue to own
So
these
actually,
things.
I have a counter argument to this. And
Okay.
the counter argument is that this method of consumption, whatever we talked about, the service method of consumption, actually is more democratic way
It
also.
creates more access, you're right.
So, for example, if I do not have enough, I still can be comfortable. I don't need to have 40,000 rupees. I can have 100 rupees. So you look at it from that standpoint also. It also creates a leveling.
Yes, it levels the playing
effect.
field, yeah.
Correct. So it's like, of course, it's a little bit different than public infrastructure, but it still creates a leveling effect because now ability to get in and get out into a particular service is easier
Yeah.
than getting myself stuck into a 5 lakh rupee car or a 40,000 rupee air conditioner.
Yeah, it certainly has the bones for a secure future. This
Exactly.
model, it has the
And I
bones
think-
for it.
And
Yeah.
if it is coupled with, as I said, right regulation, I
Yeah.
think it makes eminent sense to consider
Absolutely.
promoting. And this is how incentives should be structured.
Exactly.
So incentives should be structured to create alignment of all these three elements.
Exactly.
Businesses, people, and nature. Once you create that alignment, you are moving towards right direction.
Yeah.
Whether you have solved the problem or not is different. But are we at least going in the right direction? Yeah, we are going in the right direction. We are reducing the pressure on nature. We are making sure that businesses continue to survive all right. And we are making more people happier by democratizing these category of services.
Yeah, since we are talking about good news, I think let's continue the discussion. I think we made a conscious shift to be a part of the solution at a stage where we could very comfortably continue the status quo. Right? And we did it because I'll tell you honestly, it was a very selfish move. The value we attributed, me and Murunbhai attributed to clean water, clean air, good food, we could clearly see this has way more value than, we are paying a way bigger price for this lifestyle by living in an environment like this than meets the eye, right? So we tried to become a part of the solution. I think there is a certain hope for a future for the human nature interface to be recalibrated in such a way that we are more decentralized. I think there are some fundamental first principles themes that have to come, right? And we will come to our favorite devil, which is scale. How should scale be managed? How should centralization be managed? What should be centralized? What should be decentralized? What should be the incentive structure? What should be the focus of design? Are you designing, for example, for well-being, or are you designing for GDP and just pure profit, right? So I think it is definitely possible. I'm seeing the ray of hope everywhere. I want you to maybe illustrate for us what gives you hope going forward. The challenge is enormous. There is no doubt about it. And the need of the hour is very, very real. We have to act now, and we both agree it has to be radical. It cannot be, we can't idly whistle along the road and hope that something changes. It's not going to happen. We are going to have to take matters in our own hands. But do you see any, like us, like we are seeing ourselves living this life and we are seeing the hopes of it, and I may get into it after
Sure.
you finish your bit, but what are the hopeful points that you see where things are moving in the right direction, and where do you see we need to push more or do more to sort of get that rolling?
So, if you really look at today's world, we realize that even people in the villages want internet access.
Yes.
And many have it also, not that we still have 100% people having that access. And then there are ways in which day-to-day activities could become easier if we use that well. So like we have physical infrastructure, like we talked about, physical public goods and services, we also need to talk about digital public goods and services.
So important. Yes.
And that will make load on the physical lower as well. So for example, we talked about mobility, but we want to go one step further, saying that I should be able to question and have an answer saying that do I really want to move? Right? If I have access and it's not so important for me to actually go from one place to another, I'll call. Or, now with the little bit of advent of technology, I'll just use, whatever conferencing services rather than. So public digital infrastructure, like public physical infrastructure, is also going to be very important for the future.
Correct.
And this is because there are aspirations, unfortunately.
Yes.
And you have to make sure that while meeting at least some of these aspirations, we are still moving in the right direction. So many times these aspirations come in the way, right? So now we are saying that how can we align? So there are certain trade-offs that we continue to look at.
Yeah.
But then a good trade-off is providing such infrastructure whereby everybody is included. Right?
Yes.
End of the day, otherwise what is happening is only certain services are available to top 2% or 10% of the people. They continue to consume 50%. The data essentially shows that top 10% consume 72% of resources.
Yes.
Now, if we even focus on those 10% and change them through whatever means, right, you are going to have a field day.
Yes.
So if you create these kinds of mechanisms whereby the public money, public funds, public investments go into something which can be used by everybody, you automatically start aligning, these things. So unfortunately, world over, these things are not there they are still not very common things.
Yes.
Interestingly, a lot of European countries are moving in this direction, whereby they are saying that we now understand that we are consuming a whole lot. We want to figure out how to consume as little as possible. We are not able to do that today, but we would at least start moving in that direction. So this whole aspect of creating physical and digital public services, especially physical public services, is something which has happened there. Now, if you consider India, one of the best digital public service has been UPI.
UPI, absolutely.
Right? You can see that, and it has got a tremendous impact
Absolutely.
on the way people are, comfortably using digital money in some form. Yeah. And similarly, if you have these access mechanisms available, fairly good quality, public spaces, right, to do stuff rather than private spaces, you will start looking at this change. So this is more of a visioning for the future. And if we say, and this vision is not impossible. We are not talking about, people stopping to feel comfortable. We are not even talking about saying that you give up that and give up that. Okay, if they do, that is fantastic, because that's going to have even further impact. But even otherwise, we will be in a position to create, headway into saying that can we then move towards, a sustainable future.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that. So I think if we give access of internet, one very powerful thing. Now I plugged out of the city system and went into the rural system. But from that urban perspective, I see so much potential in this. For example, whatever I'm growing on my farm, I don't have to go through some elaborate connection system to reach the urban customer. Essentially, I am a farmer growing food on a farm, directly talking to a consumer, having a friendly relationship with him. Everything changes, Ajay, when you remove the veneer of commerce, the opacity or the coldness of commerce. Like when I'm buying, this is the difference between buying vegetables from a supermarket and putting them in a plastic bag, putting them in your trolley, going to a counter. I give you 10 rupees and the deal's done.
transactional.
It's transactional. The money is given, the
There's
goods
no
are given.
relationship.
But when someone's coming on my farm, for example, and having the strawberries, or they know me, we interact, and whenever I put up a message saying, hey, my strawberries are available, that transaction is not just satiating you or your hunger for strawberries, but
Goes beyond it.
It goes beyond it, and it reconnects. It adds a human layer to the current world order right now. So I'm not saying let's not change anything. Let the farmers grow food on the farms and let the people in the cities remain in the cities. But if this connection happens, something magical happens beyond that. Farmer gets a conscience of growing it the right way, because now I suddenly, if I'm selling it to you in Aranyeshwar, I know that Ajay's family's health is at stake.
Exactly.
So I'm not going to do malpractices on my farm.
So that intermediary aspect, if you remove,
Yes.
then there is very different potential for this kind of a.
So such a simple solution, which can be enabled with a very simple technology, jiska carbon footprint can be much lower than the current supply chain logistics and delivery system. But it adds so much more trust. And so I think relationships.
Right.
And see, the best way to do it, like you said, let's circle back all the way to the beginning of our conversation. Hunter-gatherers had great peace of mind. This is a sentence you used in the beginning of this podcast, which is so true. And that was because when you go to a mango tree and you pluck a mango from it, it's like nature gifting you food. She doesn't ask anything in return, right? So it's literally like receiving a gift. And anyone who's received a gift and anyone who's ever gifted someone knows that both parties win. It's a truly win-win
So that's
equation.
the true relationship between nature and humans.
That's the true relationship. That's the true relationship. What we have done is we have created long supply chains in the middle of this simple relationship, right? All we have to do, I think, as a solution, is to make these less complex.
Create transparency.
And
make that, actually.
bring them as close to each other as possible. And the second this happens, this behavior will reduce. I think that's one way to come to a solution.
Yeah, that's a very interesting dimension that we didn't really talk about. But as you are talking about this connection between the producer and the consumer, I'll also provide you another interesting dimension to how these problems could be solved kind of together, right? So we know that there are big cities and there are rural areas around the cities, and these areas are basically producers and cities are consumers for all practical purposes, net consumers, right? And the rural areas actually buy a lot of chemical fertilizer from somewhere, whatever the source is, use it on a regular basis and supply that food to the consumer. I'm leaving the relationship dimension apart. I'm talking about something more physical stuff. And then we also know that farmers actually carry all the risk, because if the crop fails, they have a problem. They already put in money. They have bought fertilizer, they have bought pesticides, and their input cost is high. And if the crop fails, they have nowhere to go, and therefore there are serious problems that can happen there. That's part one. So can something be done about reducing this input cost and increasing the quality of produce? So now we are reframing the problem. Our problem is not about growing maximum amount of food. What we are saying is we want to make sure that the producer has to remain comfortable. Why is producer having a problem? Because the input costs are high, and sometimes the output input equation just doesn't work out.
Yeah.
So now if we say let's figure out how to reduce input costs and at the same time improve the quality of output. I'm not talking about quantity, I'm talking about quality. Can we do that? And can we take the urban community into solving this problem? And then I solve 3 more problems. I'll tell you how. So typically if you look at it, I take that food, I consume it, right? I have a potential health problem, right? So that's one definitely
Yes.
an important problem that arises out of the current system. Secondly, I create a lot of waste, and most of the waste goes to my river. So my river actually starts suddenly growing a whole lot of water, as in there is a new problem created. The water is bad, the river is dead, there is no life there. I have enormous drainage system to manage, right? And I just put my sewage in water and flush it out into the river. Actually, my waste is not waste, it is resource. Look at it from a pure scientific perspective. There is an NPK which goes into the crop, the nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium that goes into the crop. It comes to me, I consume it. A lot of, actually most of the part is excreted.
Washed off, yeah.
And that is actually required for crop to grow, right? Now if I am able to manage that in a proper manner, I create a resource, and which is an organic resource for my farmer. One, I will have a better crop. I will not probably need to use pesticides. I am reducing the input cost of fertilizers because actually I want to get rid of it.
Yeah.
So I can give it free for all practical purposes or at negative cost. I can pay him for that matter. So I am reducing the input cost for him and creating higher quality food. And I am solving multiple problems in one shot.
Yeah.
So I think we need to start thinking in this direction where we are not necessarily looking at solving a problem.
Yeah.
We are looking at broader stuff.
So, yeah,
looking at
yeah.
basic principles to
Yeah.
address, define your problems and find solutions.
I think very apt to the name of our podcast. There is never a problem. It is always a bundle of problems.
Absolutely.
And you always have to look at it. You have to ask the 5 why question, and you have to get to the root cause. If you can't, at least look at all the associated problems, club them, and see if there is a solution that kind of magically solves
And
all
many
of them.
times, if you solve the problem upstream, you'll end up solving multiple
problems downstream.
multiple downstream problems. So unlike you saying that, I want to, so instead of, for example, we took an example of your catalytic converter put into your, pipe, right, for a car,
Yeah.
exhaust pipe. Now, instead of that, if I say that now I would rather try and see that all the nitrogen and sulfur that is present in my fuel is removed. Right? I don't need a catalytic converter, I still have clean exhaust. So you have to start, as I said, look at upstream, go upstream. And of course, then you can go further upstream and say whether I need a car and so on and so forth. But that's a different question. So whenever you say that I want to solve the problem upstream, it solves many problems downstream in one shot, number one. And it is much cleaner, in most probability is much cheaper. Okay, so then the issue always is, what will the economic system say?
There we go.
But that's again a separate discussion. So I think these solutions, as they emerge, your economic system will also start understanding how can you monetize this value. Okay.
Yeah, it's a very simple example, I'll tell you. Rather than spending on big and diabetic care hospitals, if you stop sugar at the upstream, there'll be less diabetes in the downstream.
Yeah, sure.
And you don't need all those diabetic care hospitals. But all the other things add to GDP. And this probably doesn't. At least right now, we don't see clear indicators of
Right.
this creating.
So I think the point is that in olden days in China, maybe a couple of thousand years ago, they had a system that the healthcare was provided by their doctors, and the whole idea was that the healthcare, the doctor will get paid some monthly X fee if there is no illness. If there is a person who is ill, then so it is the way incentives should be structured, right? So if today the incentive for the hospital is trying to get maximum number of patients and maximum number of money per patient. That's how the hospital businesses are run, unfortunately. So if you flip this and say that we want all the infrastructure, as a government, for example, I'm going to pay you X amount. If you actually see less number of patients in your hospital, I'm going to make sure that I'll pay you bonus. So it's a very weird idea. Sometimes you feel, but your incentive structures, unless they are done in this manner, you will not see clear benefits.
No economist is
Take
going to
an
like this
example
conversation.
of water issue, right? Water problem in Africa, right? So if there is enough money that is spent on water problem, not just Africa, anywhere, quality of water, I mean, you are going to spend tremendously less money on the downstream healthcare costs.
Yeah. But
So that's where upstream is critical.
and any economist worth his salt says that there should be no governance.
There should
Right?
be
No governance.
no governance.
Free market policies should dictate, and if there is demand, supply should fulfill it, and the price equilibrium is met.
While at one Adam Smith talked about this invisible hand and stuff like that, but core assumption was that the consumer is going to be rational.
Yeah.
And more than rational, he also said that consumer has to be ethical. Now, nowhere to be seen, right? So those assumptions are invalid, number one. Secondly, the markets are not free. Where are the markets free? There are 100,000 regulations. So even markets are not free. So everything is skewed. And we still say it's a free market economy, which it is not in the first place. So we need to fix that for sure.
Got it. Let's take control of our future. Okay. The world is going somewhere. People have their own motives. People have their own. Assuming I'm a rational human being, I'm seeing this coming. What can we do today to not only change our own life, but probably, I don't know, whatever your sphere of influence is, what can you do and what can be the right way of doing things which don't make you terribly uncomfortable? Let me put it honestly. No. So what can be done? What do you have any sort of...
So the actions are at multiple levels. So let's talk about some simple individual.
Yeah, and then we can go to global level also. Yeah.
So there is one rule which I call Phatak's rule, which is for mobility.
Okay.
And it is 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay.
Simple rule, right? If you are one person and you are going a short distance, just walk or cycle.
Yeah.
If you are two people, you need to go a little bit longer distance or even shorter distance, use a scooter, no problem. If you are three people, use a public transport, auto rickshaw, whatever best is possible. If you are four people and if you cannot use public transport, use a car. Okay, I'm saying that let's be practical.
Yeah.
If you do this, I can assure you that your transportation or movement bill will come down by 90%.
Wow.
But you'll have to think. Every time you have to make a decision. Right? If you do that, your bill is going to be 90%. Your impact in terms of using fuel is going to come down by 90%. So simple thing, right? So it's a simple thing for me to do. I keep doing it and I'm very happy. I don't spend too much of money either. I'm more comfortable. I'm very free.
And you're fitter also?
And I'm automatically fitter. So all these, come together. Right? Mm-hmm. So this is one example. Mm-hmm. The other example is related to things like using certain products. So for example, all of us use toothpaste. I still use toothpaste once in a while, but I don't use toothpaste many times, most of the times. If I use it, I use it,
Very little.
very little, right? So what is the advantage? If you know that, toothpaste has 45 different chemicals. As they get aggregated and multiplied by 50 lakh people, the total amount of chemical that goes into water is enormous. And again, we are getting into this problem of polluted rivers, water hyacinth, bad aquatic life getting destroyed, so on and so forth. So instead, if you use, a natural tooth powder, which is very easy to assimilate, it does not have the kind of chemicals which can accumulate and biomagnify, you're better off.
Yeah.
And it's very easily possible. There's no big problem. You have excellent brands available.
Exactly, I was just going to say that.
So it's not just saying that you're doing, something. So even if you're brand conscious, you can use best brand of tooth powder. So that's another example. Third example is many times we kind of are bound by the fact that we have to take hot water bath. And many times it is even uncomfortable and we take hot water bath.
Yeah.
So if you move to just by saying instead of taking a hot water bath, by and large I'll take cold water bath. And if it is really needed, I'll take hot water bath. You're going to cut your electricity bill by half. Simple measures. We are not talking about doing something
big discomfort
out of this world, right? Fairly simple stuff, and you can contribute to this whole idea. And the third, and we talked about that whole aspect of trying to use service rather than a product. And it's not going to make you uncomfortable. It's just a mindset shift. If you are able to do that shift, I mean, all in all, you will be, for you, you don't need that much money. You are, thin on resources. The amount of resources that you use, you automatically reduce less amount of energy. And on the lighter note, all of us sport beards, so we don't need a razor, we don't need a blade, we don't need, the
Gillette is not going to sponsor
whatever.
us.
So, so I mean, I'm just, saying that the idea is that wherever it is possible that you not use it, just don't use it, and you are more comfortable, you're more freer.
Absolutely.
So that's on a personal level. I mean, and we feel that these are simple things, but I gave you numbers.
Yeah.
You're talking about 90% reduction, 50% reduction, 60%. Yeah. This is huge.
Yeah.
I mean, nations talk about 2%, 3%, 4%, right? We are talking about order of magnitude difference.
Yeah. Yeah, I would also say get out of the status game, get into a more first principles mode, do a life audit, ask yourself what you really need. What are your comforts?
Exactly.
Right? What makes you feel comfortable? If the world is wearing skinny, uncomfortable jeans, do you need to wear it? Exactly. You have to ask that question to yourself, right? And then buy like 2 lakh worth of Armani jeans or whatever, like whatever the script or the narrative is. And I think that on a global level, I think we need to reframe our boundaries and reset our limits. This is something that I'm coming to terms with, that all these nations are arbitrary lines drawn by us. We are Correct. Essentially the same species. Correct. We are living on one singular planet. So it's not that, if we are devastating the rainforest in Amazon, it doesn't affect us. That is just simply not true. Right? So
absolutely.
Because we are now global, the empathy and compassion should also become global. And there is just one energy source. We are living on a finite planet. So living off the surplus is recommended. Living as minimally is recommended. Any parting thoughts, anything that you would tell the listeners to think about, ponder about, do?
Yeah, I think a couple of things which we did not talk about as far as what could be the interesting systemic change.
Let's talk about it.
These are interesting parting thoughts who want to try and envision the future which is a little bit different than what it is today.
Mm-hmm.
So if we change measurements, your decisions change, as all of us know, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you suddenly, I gave you that example of the doctor If we say that, you are going to be paid only if you do not have patients, instead of having more patients, the way you would want to act, therefore, is going to be preventive and not curative. So this incentive or the mechanism has changed his behavior. Correct?
Right.
So now if you're talking about a business now, right? If we change the way business is measured, so today business is measured on revenues and margins, correct? Tomorrow, if the business also is measured on saying that, are you, quote unquote, contributing to the sufficiency of resources for your business to go on for a long period of time? So now we are changing the temporal lens, or instead of 10 years, we are talking about, let's say, 100 years. And we say that measurement has to come into your performance, and you have that performance index even for the. In this case, the businesses can become regenerative, which means whatever I need, or actually group of businesses, not necessarily a business. So whatever I need within this community of businesses, let's say 10, 20, 100 businesses, I make sure that we are self-sufficient. We are able to generate the resources that we need. We are able to make sure that the material is in the loop all the time. Material doesn't go away.
Yeah.
So I don't need to mine more iron. Yeah. Whatever iron that has been used, I can continue to use it in an appropriate manner. So that kind of circularity, not necessarily in single business, but across businesses, is something which people have already started experimenting. Good part is, this whole subject is called industrial ecology. So that is already, people are experimenting with that. There are clusters in Europe where they have demonstrated that, something like this can be done. And that regeneration is not just about the abiotic material. I'm not talking about just iron and steel. I'm also talking about the biological requirement for businesses to succeed in the future. And that is only when you are able to regenerate and reverse the land use issue. Otherwise, my biodiversity thing is going to kill me sooner than later. Probably sooner than anything else. So, if I say that therefore, and I look at this as also as opportunity. Unfortunately, opportunity, but opportunity. That I have degraded land. So now I have an opportunity to regenerate that.
Restore it,
Right? Yeah. So my restoration opportunity spectrum has increased quite a bit. But now let me use that I want to restore it. And I create some value out of it.
Absolutely.
And that value is measured. And that's how business performance is also structured. Now these are the ideas which will take us into a direction where we can see interesting sustainable future. And like businesses, we talked about regulation a little bit, but we keep that off for now.
Awesome. I think this is putting us in a direction where we are thinking about solutions. I think we all need to come together. I think there are some great innovations happening in silos. There is innovation happening in every little Indian village, actually, coming to think of it. But we need to create a platform where these innovations are brought either to limelight and they are discussed on a broader scale. I think we all need to come together and solve this. We have to change the consciousness of me versus you. And if we think collectively and if we think long term, I think
Absolutely.
We are going to get there.
So it has to be a very reasonable combination of short term and long term. Because we are living in a political economy,
which is short term.
So as long as you make sure that we are not losing per se on short term, but we are caring for the long term in the same thing. Individually, we have an opportunity to change, which we can take those opportunities, and collectively, again, as I said, there are many opportunities which should start looking at and latching on.
Thank you for shedding light right from why we need to discuss this, why it is so fundamental for humans to think about this, how we have disconnected so terribly from the natural resource that provides us today's creature comforts, and what are the ways in which we can recalibrate ourselves on an individual level, on a family level, on a society level, and of course nations and internationally. So I think whichever level of influence anyone who's listening to this conversation is, I think it's the need of the hour to start thinking about transitioning to a more sustainable, more regenerative, more cleaner future. Let's think about sinks as well as the source. And let's just try and bring back some balance to this spacecraft that seems to be hurtling towards the Earth at breakneck speed, and pray for some sense to prevail and we all do the right thing. So on that note, thank you so much for your time, Ajay.
Thank you again for having me.
And we'll add some ways for people to reach out to you,
Sure.
Maybe an email address or something. And thank you for your time and thank you for the conversation. So this podcast is sponsored by Nature Care Fertilizers.
Mm-hmm.
He's actually a friend called Jaydev. And his father started this business 60 years ago. Again, long term. He was working at NCL. And he went back to Sangli. And it's got Shenkhat and 13 other natural additives. And when we started our regenerative agriculture journey, we used that to build our soil.
Wonderful.
And it has just done miracles for the barren, lateritic, worn out, degraded soil that I found myself on in Mahabaleshwar. So I'm very thankful to Nature Care, and I recommend it to all my friends. And see, another example of investing energy in the right places. He is helping us have these conversations, which I think are going
We should certainly thank him.
Yeah, I hope it's a catalytic force to drive some kind of change. So thank you, Nature Care Fertilizers, for the kind help. This episode is brought to you by Nature Care Fertilizers. I have been personally using Nature Care Fertilizers on my farm for the last 3 years, and the results have been outstanding. Not only is it good for your plants, but it's amazing for the environment as well. This is the complete solution to an evergreen revolution. If you like that video, please don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and don't forget to click the bell icon so that you never miss the next episode of The Root Cause.